Hello, this is Matteo, Chief Mobile Opinionist at Tech Travel Geeks. Today the Tech Travel Geeks are back to review the Xiaomi A2, an Android One device from Chinese phone manufacturer Xiaomi. Physically, the Xiaomi A2 is an aluminium unibody smartphone with a 6-inch IPS LCD display of Full HD Plus resolution, a dual camera setup on the back, comprised of a 12 megapixel main sensor and a 20 megapixel secondary sensor for low light photography, and a 20 megapixel front facing selfie camera. The Xiaomi A2 is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 chipset. This is an octa-core CPU device, which is very powerful, especially for this price segment. In case we haven't mentioned it, the Xiaomi A2 is priced between £150 and £200 depending on which stock keeping unit you decide to buy. That's because there are multiple variants depending on how much RAM or storage you need. So you can either have 4 or 6 GB of RAM, or 32, 64 or 128 GB of storage. Sadly, there's no expansion slot via microSD on this device. That's a strange thing to omit from a mid-range device, especially one that follows on from the very popular Xiaomi A1. The Xiaomi A2 is powered by a 3000 mAh battery. I know that sounds like a relatively small battery, but we think that's because Xiaomi were focusing on trying to make the device slim. Sadly, that slimness causes the dual camera setup on the back to protrude a bit. Essentially, you get a nice slim device with a relatively big camera bump. The Xiaomi A2 is an Android One device. This means that it ships with a relatively recent version of Android 8.1 in this case, and receives security updates and operating system updates rapidly thanks to the close collaboration with Google, the makers of Android. The software experience on the Xiaomi A2 is clean and simple, just the way Google intended it to be. There's no bloatware, no pre-installed apps apart from the core Google ones, and overall it's a familiar and comfortable experience for those coming from a Nexus or a Google Pixel. On the top of the device, on the upper edge, there's a welcome infrared blaster. We always like those at Tech Travel Geeks. Getting around those hotel room TVs is always a bit of a hassle, and it's always better to have your own remote control to do so. Things are pretty simple on the right hand side of the device. It's just the power button and the volume rocker. And on the left hand side you'll just find the dual nano SIM tray. That's because there's no micro SD slot on this device. Whereas on the bottom you'll find a USB Type-C port for data and power, and a speaker grill for single mono speaker, and the microphone. Sadly, there's no 3.5mm audio jack on the Xiaomi A2. Xiaomi very kindly do ship an adapter from USB Type-C to 3.5mm audio in the retail packaging. The good news is that the Xiaomi A2, being a Xiaomi device, works with the not so expensive USB Type-C adapters. That means you can pick up an adapter which splits not only the USB Type-C to 3.5mm audio jack, but also to another USB Type-C, so you can charge and listen to media at the same time. The Xiaomi A2 does not have NFC. That means you won't be able to use NFC for mobile payments using Google Pay, or pair some Bluetooth headphones that have NFC easily. In this case, we took the Xiaomi A2 to Mary's Milk Bar in Edinburgh, ordered our favourite affogato ice creams, and obviously couldn't pay using Google Pay. We had to resort to using a different smartphone. Thanks to Mary's Milk Bar for helping us film this video and providing us with a very nice setting. Now, let's talk about the cameras on the Xiaomi A2. The main camera on the back is a 12 megapixel sensor behind an f1.8 lens. And there's a secondary camera, a 20 megapixel one, also behind an f1.8 lens, which is supposed to help with low light photography. The combo of cameras on the back are interfaced by a very simple UI and perform really well, especially in good lighting conditions. There's plenty of detail, the colour reproduction is very good, I would say slightly more natural than other brands such as Huawei's or Honor devices, but very good pictures overall come from the dual camera setup on the Xiaomi A2. In low light, for a device in this mid-range, the Xiaomi A2 shoots good pictures. Not great, but still very good. There is a manual mode in the camera, but overall, for most people, it's a point-and-shoot camera that performs well in good light. My overall experience using the Xiaomi A2 as a main device was positive. I liked the snappiness and responsiveness. Overall, it's a great experience. Playing games like Pokemon Go was good fun and noticeably faster than on other devices in this price range. What was a bit disappointing was battery life. Despite the newer Snapdragon 660 chipset, the smaller battery makes it not such a battery champion as other devices we've reviewed. I would say, pairing that with the fact that there's no expandable storage, and the device we're reviewing only had 32GB of internal storage, there wasn't much space to spare after a few high-end games had been installed, and my podcast client of choice, in this case Pocket Casts, had been used. If there were one thing I would change on the Xiaomi A2, it would probably be one that I would change on many devices. I would love to see a bigger battery in the device, maybe 4000 or maybe even 5000 mAh, and the disappearance of that camera bump. So, to sum things up, the Xiaomi A2 is a great device in of itself, but we don't think we can recommend this device if you're a frequent traveller because of the limited battery life and the lack of microSD expansion for media storage. Also, the fact that there's a Type-C port and no 3.5mm audio jack essentially puts the last nail in the coffin for the Xiaomi A2. The good news is that we're currently also reviewing the Xiaomi A2 Lite, the smaller and arguably lower specified A2, which does have microSD expansion, a bigger battery, and a 3.5mm audio jack. If you enjoyed this video review of the Xiaomi A2, and also would like to catch up with the Xiaomi A2 Lite review we're working on, as well as other videos, including cat videos, please subscribe to Tech Travel Geeks here on YouTube. Thanks to Lukasz for very kindly directing and editing this video. That's his role as Chief Aperture Officer here at Tech Travel Geeks. Oh yes, he's pretty good at shoehorning some gratuitous drone footage in as well. So well done, Lukasz. Thanks for watching everyone, goodbye!